Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a talk. And we need to have a talk about your money, your cash, specifically, your cash money that you think is safe in the bank. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I actually came across someone yesterday who was telling me that they had trouble going to the bank to withdraw their own money. And what it boiled down to was that the bank didn't have enough cash available in the bank to provide them for this withdrawal. And it wasn't a massive or a large amount of money that they needed to withdraw. It was a few $1,000s, probably something you know, depending on your debit card limits, you could probably pull out of an ATM. But the bank itself, the physical bank branch location, didn't have the money, the cash in the drawers or in the vault to fulfill this withdrawal request. And the worst part about it was they didn't just say they didn't have the money. They tried to paint this picture and create these obstacles for the account holder, the customer, to make it so that they couldn't withdraw the money versus the bank telling them they didn't have the money. So, like I said, I want to talk to you about your money, your cash, which is very, very important right now, especially if you are preparing for tomorrow, preparing for the future. And this is going to be for those who have a considerable amount of cash available that they save in a savings account or a checking account, or maybe even a CD, you know, because the banks hold on to the CDs, and, you know, a CD that you may be thinking is maturing soon and you may want to cash out on. So I'm talking to you specifically, those that invest a lot of their disposable income, their savings in the stock market and in other investment vehicles, other assets that they have their money placed in. This isn't necessarily for you unless maybe you find yourself in a situation where you need to cash out of an asset and perhaps you have a check that you want to take to a bank to get cashed, which is becoming more and more difficult to do. And we'll get to that later in the video about how cash is pretty much going to be eliminated. And there's multiple reasons behind this, possible theories. But again, most importantly, I want everyone to pay attention, because this is really important. This disturbs me really, because you think your money is safe in the bank and you think that you can go access it anytime you want, or most importantly, need. You know, you don't want to be in a situation where you need your own money and you go to the bank and the bank tells you you can't have it. Why? Because they don't have it. Now, banks aren't required to actually keep on hand all of their deposits. They only have to keep by law a percentage of their deposits. But at the end of the day, that amount, I believe, is based on the bank itself, the bank brand. So if your bank is Bank of America or Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase or Citibank, Capital One Bank, whatever the bank is, Renaissance Bank, that's a local bank here, PNC, Truist, they just bought out SunTrust. So that brand of bank has to keep cash, a cash percentage of their deposits, but your particular branch or location may not. And that could be a problem, especially if you're not in a heavily populated area, or maybe you are, and maybe that heavy population is what's causing their cash amounts to drop to the point at which you can't go in there and make a withdrawal because they don't have enough cash. They don't have enough money to give you of your own money, which, you know, is going to get onto a little separate topic about the digital currency and the push towards digital currency. And, you know, the good reasons, and possibly good, possibly bad reasons why digital currency is the way that you may want to go, because you're going to have to go that way no matter what at some point in time. Today, we don't barter goods specifically on a regular basis to buy necessities at stores, online, on a regular basis. The point I'm trying to make is that years and years and years ago, there was a bartering method, there's a bartering system. Also, there was gold, there was silver that was traded. We've moved on to cash. So those older methods, useful, but no longer in use. We moved on to cash. Well, cash almost kind of sort of started slowing down a little bit as we moved on to credit, and we moved on to the debit card, and these transactions that occur digitally. In addition to, then we've recently moved on to Cash App and Venmo and Zelle, and I'm sure there's a few others that I'm not remembering right now, but it's kind of moved on to digital. You work, and let's just say the average person works their job 9 to 5, or in the case of most employers really just destroying their employees' lives, you work really more like 24 hours a day, but let's just say it's 7 to 7 instead of the 9 to 5. After you work your week or two, or if you want to buy a semi-monthly pay scale, you get a paycheck. Or really what you get is a pay stub, or you used to. Now, for the most part, these probably come through your phone, through your email, or through an app like Paychex or Patriot Software, or some, maybe ADP has one, which basically shows you on an app what you've earned, hours you've worked, all your deductions, maybe even your employer's contributions, and your net pay. Your net pay is then direct deposited, more than likely, into your checking account, savings account, or maybe even like I think Cash App has a card now, which is pretty cool. And my nephew had one. He showed it to me. He ordered a fluorescent neon green card. It was pretty cool looking. And there's other cards and products available if you don't have a traditional bank account, or maybe you've been denied a traditional bank account. But at the end of the day, your wages, your earning, your net ends up in that account. And from there, you're going to go and you're going to buy food, water, clothing. You're going to pay your bills. You're going to do all sorts of stuff. You're either going to, before all that, you're going to put money in savings. I know that. I'm telling myself, I know that's what you're saying first. You're going to put the money in savings first, pay yourself first. Then you're going to go and move on to these necessities, and then move on to the frivolous spending, the fun spending, right? Yeah, okay. So when it's all said and done, all of this occurred, all of this happened, and you never once touched a dollar. You never once touched a physical dollar of printed U.S. currency. You never did, because it all is digital. It's digital. Now, if you wanted to, you go to the bank and you can make a withdrawal, or if you wanted to, you could request a paper check and then get it deposited and end up with cash. But what I'm saying is we've moved on from trading and bartering and carrying sacks of precious metals, and moved on to cash, and then the cash has moved on to this digital age. So we're continuously evolving and progressing, so to speak. So you have to realize that from here, we have to move on beyond the bank statements and ACH transfers, especially with cryptocurrency making a huge splash in the market, because At the end of the day, you got to realize that the money is about money. And when I say that, I mean that the money is about the government getting their cut. Now, with cash, it's hard to get their cut because they can't track it. Not to the extent that they want to. You go to a bank and you make a large withdrawal or a large deposit, one or the other, maybe both, and I think it's over $10,000. And they're going to make you fill out a form, and this form goes to the IRS so that they can track these larger transactions, even though they're cash, even though it's your own money. But that's kind of the best they got. That's kind of the best they got, and they realize that they're losing out on their tax revenue. And this is clear. I'm sure you've seen it because it was clear at the end of 2021 when they made the announcement that they're going to start calculating transactions made through Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, all these digital money transfer platforms, which essentially was supposed to be like the name Cash App was supposed to be an application on your phone or your computer that would allow you to transfer cash to friends and family. But now they're saying they're going to include that in income. Why? So you just went to work, you worked your ass off, excuse my language, you got this money that they tax, like I said, deductions, Social Security, Medicare, state and federal, before you get your net. Your net was after all these deductions. Then this is your money, this is your cash. Then, for instance, you send $500 to a relative. You know, maybe somebody's graduating college or something. Very exciting moment in their life, and you send them money. That money that you work for, that you've paid taxes on, that you just sent as a gift through this Cash App or whatever app it may be, they then have to claim as income, and it gets taxed too. Yeah, y'all see anything wrong with this? Y'all see anything wrong with this picture? So Bitcoin and crypto, Bitcoin's huge. Bitcoin is probably going to be the one. Dogecoin, I think like Elon Musk is like a huge proponent of Bitcoin. He loves it. He also feels as though he can go and eat, fruits and vegetables out of some radiation-filled garden in, near Chernobyl and be perfectly fine. But Bitcoin is a big one. Some of these other ancillary coins that just pop up out of nowhere. I think it was ApeCoin or something. There's always something new popping up. You gotta be cautious and careful and wary with these because a lot of them could be scams. But the point I'm trying to make is that Bitcoin, the main crypto, I feel is the main crypto, came onto the scene and made a big splash. And that got the eyes and ears of the politicians in Congress, especially IRS. And they were like, hey, there's going to be a lot of money moving around in this crypto mining network. How are we gonna make money off of this? They're using the dollars that they've made, the money that they made that we've already taxed, and they're using this as the basis for this crypto. But eventually, they're not going to need that anymore, and crypto is going to create its own value, and companies are going to start actually accepting it, and they're going to start paying people in it, and eventually we're going to get cut out. So, what do? You got to draw the line somewhere, so they go to the banks and they put restrictions on cash because they want to control it. They want to know who's got it. They want to know where it's going. They want their cut, their multiple cuts. And you're going to see these banks not having cash available for you when you need it because they can't track it. And what's even more disturbing is that I've seen instances where these banks, these big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all these big banks, huge banks, and people are going to them on regular work Monday through Friday, normal hours, and they're closed. Now, some people may say, oh, it's a labor shortage. Okay. I don't think these banks are paying minimum wages. I don't think it's so much as the labor shortage where you're in a situation where the employees aren't even earning enough to combat inflation and actually, buy food and put a roof over their heads. But it's really odd that you would go to a big, I can see if it was a small bank, like a local bank in a small town or something, and they weren't open. And, but these are big banks, and just randomly, we're not open. We're not. So you got these big banks that just don't open, just close randomly. In addition to, when you show up and you ask for your own money from them, they make it hard for you to get it. And then if you can jump through all the hoops, then eventually they'll tell you they don't have it. Very disturbing. I want to read to you guys something that I came across today. And this was a bank up north. And it says that they're going to lay off nearly 200 employees. And this was written today, the 23rd, March 23rd, 2022. And it says next month they're going to lay off 200 employees, nearly 200 employees. And I don't know if they actually said it, but the Department of Labor kind of tipped this one off as the bank filed a worker adjustment and retraining notification. And that notification alerted the Department of Labor that 198 employees were going to be affected, or this was going to be effective for 198 employees on April 8th. So about 2 weeks from now, a little over 2 weeks from now, 198 bank employees are going to lose their jobs. They probably don't even know this. They probably don't even know this yet. And this is a very interesting turn of events here that's got me wanting to look into more Department of Labor notifications because, a huge change like this is a key indication of more, remember the last video I talked about the indicators, these key moments in time, these events that build up and they add up to the eventual food shortage, the eventual empty shelves, the eventual crisis and panic, and people drilling into your gas tanks to steal your fuel when you're not looking, and the desperation. Like these are the moments, these are the little key indicators I was talking about. And this article actually goes into detail about the reason behind the giant job cuts for the bank. And it says here that they've discontinued residential mortgage and home equity originations as they continue to focus on investing in products that they have scale and the leverage, and that leverage their core strengths. This move will allow us to unlock capital to fuel our growth. It states that they remain committed to their clients, small businesses, and communities they serve, and are ensuring that their current clients and those in their pipeline are not impacted. All right, so this is important here because it says they're discontinuing residential mortgage and home equity originations. All right, so the Fed just raised their, on top of this unbelievable housing market that everyone's expecting and waiting to see crash and crumble, this bank is laying off 198 employees, and they've discontinued residential mortgage and home equity originations. So to me, like that's a huge sign. Like, you're basically telling me you have no interest and no confidence whatsoever in home mortgages and home equity loans. Do you think no one's going to need a mortgage? Do you think no one's going to want to pull out equity and borrow against it? I don't think that's the case. I'm sure they don't think that's the case. Oh, wait, no. You don't trust it. You don't believe it. You don't think that people are going to be able to pay back what they're borrowing. And you also don't have enough money to fulfill these loans and these obligations either. In addition to turning people away when they just try to withdraw a few $1,000s of their own money. Ooh, very interesting. They want to focus on investing in products that have scale and leverage their core strengths. So, it used to be at one point in time, people were, your most valuable business's most valuable assets, but not so much anymore. Computers and technology have taken over, and the people who can create this and maintain it are the most valuable. So a bank to lay off 198 employees tells me that they have technology and operations and automation in place, much like you've already seen at any store where you can check yourself out or pay through the app while you're shopping through Sam's Club. They figured out a way to eliminate the human employee, eliminate overhead, eliminate downtime, eliminate, human resource requirements, eliminate even breaks, because computers really don't need breaks. A lot of these components need power, or if they're battery operated, need to be charged, but they don't need the breaks that human beings need and by law are required to have. So the bank wants to lay off employees, cut back on mortgages and home equity, and focus on leveraging their core strengths through products that that they can scale. This move will allow us to unlock capital to fuel our growth. Yeah, they're going to fuel their growth by not paying employees and just using that to build out their tech. And honestly, if you're moving towards a digital currency age, a cryptocurrency age, then I do believe that these transactions can be made so much faster and not necessarily have the need for the tellers in volumes of which you used to, let alone banks are no longer going to even have cash. At some point, cash is going to disappear. They're no longer going to have it and need the tellers to actually dispense it. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to a Bank of America here recently. The Bank of America rolled out this ATM teller that I would go into a Bank of America that used to have 8 tellers, maybe, on average. This was like a highly trafficked area here in Atlanta, and they have like 8 tellers. Well, I went in there, I think it was like 2, maybe 3 years ago. They had this new ATM, and it had a phone attached to it. And you go to this ATM, you pick up the phone, you're on the screen, and you're talking to a teller somewhere, who knows where, and they can manage the transaction. Well, the bank itself, they used to have 8 tellers, only had 2. It had 2 tellers and one guy at the front to direct you to the new computerized ATM that had, it's like a call center basically. So they could take multiple people and put them in one central location and manage hundreds of banks, eliminating the need for all these tellers and all these banks, just so that they would be there for the peak times. Any other time outside of that, they weren't needed. Not at least not in the volume that you would need them during the peak times. And now I'm sure that these people on the other end of this new automated ATM, they don't even have to go into a central location. They could probably do it from home. They got a rolling code login on their computer. They have 2-step, maybe 3-step authentication to get in. And, this is the direction that the world is going. This is the direction that money's going. This is the direction that business is going. Most businesses, not all businesses. You have to be prepared. You have to realize, you got to understand these small little hints and breadcrumbs, these key indicators of what's to come. President Biden has made this huge push for CBDC, the central bank digital currency. And you have to understand that this is a race against crypto, against Bitcoin, because if the world were to shift to a decentralized currency before the government could get their hands on it, the government loses a lot of money. They lose the opportunity to take away a lot of money from hardworking people like you and like millions of other people who work their butts off to earn these low wages to then be taxed to hell and back, and then taxed again. Even taxed on a stimulus check that they receive, even taxed on a child tax credit they receive. Tax. If the government doesn't end up with their own forced, mandated, centralized currency before Bitcoin or some of these other cryptocurrencies really take hold, they're going to miss out. And you haven't seen panic and crisis yet until you've seen the government upset and crying because they're missing out on their money. But I do believe that the banks, which, they're federally insured, they have federal regulations, the banks have to play by the rules to stay being banks, to stay in the club, stay in the circle for when, centralized bank digital currency, CBDC, actually rolls out. They don't want to miss out. They want to be in the game. So they got to play by the rules. They got to hold the cash. They got to send the cash back. They got to track all the cash. They got to help the government get what it wants from the people by being able to track all their money, all their transactions, everything to the penny, so they can tax you. So pay attention. Pay attention. You go to a bank and they tell you can't have your money, you might want to ask them why. You might want to ask them why and see if they actually tell you it's because they don't have it. And, right now you're probably saying, well, where's my money safe? Well, I'm not saying your money is unsafe in the bank, but I am saying that there are changes being made that we're not 100% aware of, but we can see the writing on the wall. And you don't want to find yourself in a situation down the road where the change has been made and it's too late for you to adjust and adapt. And so you want to be proactive instead of reactive. I would still keep some money in the bank, but I'd also keep some money elsewhere. I'd also keep a little bit of cash, safe, in a safe or somewhere safe that you can get to without having to rely on the bank to give you your cash. I would also be investing in tangible assets, appreciating assets that theoretically can be sold to earn a return on your investment, to pull cash out of that investment, or maybe even use down the road to barter. For instance, you have some tools or some precious metals or anything like that that is of value. There are certain high-end wristwatches and even vintage items like an old Nintendo or Game Boy or something has value. Certain brands of sneakers and shoes have value, and these things can be traded and bartered down the road if you ever needed to. I would say, I'm not telling you what to do. This is not financial advice, but me personally, I would have my cash available. I would have some money, and not just one bank, but multiple banks. If Bank of America tells me I can't have any money, or tells me they don't have any money to give me, I can go to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo tells me no, I can go to Chase, and so on and so on. In addition, make sure you have your credit in good standing, and make sure your credit score is over 740. Like I said in my last video, it's got to be over 740. Make sure your available credit doesn't get used. There may be some people who may disagree with me that you should draw down your credit lines so that they aren't taken away from you. But it's a catch-22 there, because you draw them down, then you have to pay interest on the money that you are borrowing, so to speak. But as long as your credit score is good, I think you're fine. The last thing you want to do is have available credit and then have your credit suffer somehow, some way or another, late payments, delinquencies, repossessions, or anything like that, then they're going to start taking your available credit away for sure. But basically, you need to have versatility and multiple backup plans. We're doing it with food, we're doing it with water, we're doing it with power. You know, we're stocking up on food that we can keep and have and save and store for later, just in case. We're stocking up on batteries and generators and fuel and solar power and things like that, so we can have power when we need it. We're stocking up on water and water filtration and rainwater storage and all sorts of things where you can have water available without the need of the public water company to supply it to you. This is no different. You need to have a plan. You need to be prepared. You need to be versatile just in case, and just in case when there's a shift and a change. It is going to happen for sure. We don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but it's going to happen. And as long as you're versatile and as long as you're prepared, you're going to be okay. If you're not versatile and you're not prepared, that doesn't mean you're not going to be okay, but it does mean that you may have it harder than everyone else who has been taking this time and using this advice and paying attention to the indicators to do what they need to do to be ready so you don't have to get ready. Thanks for watching. Please give the video a like if you made it this far and you appreciate what I've shared with you. Comment below. I love hearing from you guys and talking to you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate it. I think we are almost at 1,200 subs, and that's really cool. From not too long ago when I started this channel, and I didn't think anybody would even care about some of the stuff that I put up. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next. Later.